Imagine a world where the very essence of human sanity was believed to be governed not by the complexities of the mind, but by four mystical fluids coursing through the body. This was the dark secret at the heart of Europe's forgotten theory of ancient madness, a paradigm that shaped human understanding and misunderstanding of mental affliction for over a millennium. What unsettling truths or terrifying misconceptions lie hidden within this ancient framework, lost to the dust of centuries? For more than 1,000 years, from the intellectual pinnacles of ancient Greece to the sprawling kingdoms of medieval Europe, the theory of the four humors stood as the undisputed bedrock of all physiological and psychological understanding. It was a foundational belief system deeply ingrained and profoundly influential, dictating not only how physicians perceived the body, but also how societies grappled with the perplexing and often terrifying manifestations of mental distress.
This was not merely a fleeting hypothesis. It was the lens through which health and illness, rationality and madness were interpreted across an entire continent. The origins of this pervasive theory trace back to the foundational texts of Hippocrates in ancient Greece, later refined and expanded by Galen during the Roman Empire. These pioneering minds proposed that the human body contained four primary fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Each humor was believed to possess distinct qualities, linked to elements, seasons, and even human temperaments. A delicate, perfect balance among these four humors was seen as the prerequisite for robust health and, crucially, for a stable, rational mind. This equilibrium promised well-being. It was the state of natural harmony within the individual. However, the slightest disruption to this intricate balance, an excess or deficiency of any one humor, was thought to unleash profound chaos.
This imbalance was the harbinger of disease, both physical and, more ominously, mental. The symptoms we now associate with psychological distress, what our ancestors termed ancient madness, were attributed directly to these humoral shifts. An excess of black bile, for instance, was widely believed to cause melancholy, a pervasive state of sadness and despair. Too much yellow bile was often linked to mania or frenzied behavior, an agitated and often aggressive state. Phlegm, in excess, might lead to sluggishness or apathy, while an overabundance of blood could manifest as a volatile or overly passionate disposition. Each imbalance was a specific diagnosis, pointing to a particular affliction of the mind and spirit. The implications of this theory were vast and deeply personal. For centuries, physicians, guided by this paradigm, sought relentlessly to restore the lost equilibrium within their patients. The methods employed were often drastic and, from our modern perspective, undeniably brutal. Aggressive bloodletting, a common practice involving the draining of blood from the body, was performed to reduce an supposed excess of blood. Purging, through emetics or laxatives, aimed to expel perceived surpluses of yellow or black bile or phlegm from the system. These interventions were not viewed as barbaric by their practitioners, but as logical, necessary steps to rebalance the vital fluids and thus restore both physical and mental health. Beyond these more invasive procedures, physicians also prescribed elaborate dietary regimens tailored specifically to a patient's presumed humoral imbalance. Certain foods were believed to increase or decrease specific humors, and so careful culinary prescriptions were given. Herbal concoctions, often with potent medicinal properties, were also a staple of treatment, chosen for their purported ability to either stimulate or suppress particular humors. These treatments, while seemingly primitive today, were the cutting edge of medical science for generations, reflecting a deep-seated conviction in the humoral model. The critical question that echoes through the ages is this: how did such a speculative and ultimately incorrect theory manage to dominate medical thought for such an astonishing period? How could a framework so detached from empirical reality endure for over a millennium, even as rudimentary scientific inquiry began its slow and arduous emergence? This is the heart of the enigma, a historical mystery that reveals as much about human culture and societal structures as it does about ancient medicine. One compelling hypothesis points to profound cultural inertia. Imagine generations upon generations of physicians, scholars, and everyday people growing up with this theory as the undisputed truth. It was taught in universities, enshrined in medical texts, and passed down through families. To challenge such a deeply entrenched belief would have required not just new observations, but a complete overhaul of an entire intellectual framework, and the courage to stand against centuries of accepted wisdom. The sheer weight of tradition and institutional endorsement would have made dissent incredibly difficult, if not perilous. Another explanation lies in the simple yet profound lack of empirical alternatives. While the humoral theory was indeed speculative, there was no demonstrably more effective or scientifically sound system to replace it for a very long time. Early attempts at systematic observation and experimentation were nascent and lacked the tools and methodologies necessary to truly unravel the complex interplay of human physiology. In the absence of a viable contender, the humoral theory, for all its flaws, offered a coherent, albeit flawed, explanation for the bewildering array of human ailments, both physical and mental. It provided a framework, a language for understanding, even if that understanding was ultimately misguided. Furthermore, a complex interplay of philosophical and religious dogma undoubtedly played a significant role in stifling dissent. In many periods, particularly during the European Middle Ages, intellectual inquiry was often intertwined with theological beliefs. To challenge an established medical theory might, in some contexts, have been perceived as challenging divine order or accepted philosophical tenets. This environment could have created a powerful deterrent against questioning, reinforcing the existing paradigm and discouraging any radical new departures in medical thought. The search for knowledge was often constrained by the boundaries of what was considered acceptable or even sacred. The impact of these treatments for mental imbalance, often rooted in abstract humoral diagnostics, profoundly shaped the lives of those suffering from what we now recognize as mental illness. For some, remarkably, there may have been genuine, if poorly understood, therapeutic effects. The ritual of care, the personalized attention, the belief in recovery, or the natural course of some conditions might have offered temporary relief or even a sense of improvement, a placebo effect that transcended the faulty underlying science. Even a restrictive diet or certain herbal remedies, while based on incorrect premises, might have had incidental benefits for some individuals or at least provided a structured approach to their care. However, for countless others, these same treatments led to unimaginable torment and further societal ostracization. The brutal nature of bloodletting or purging, often performed without anesthetic, would have inflicted intense physical suffering. Misdiagnoses based on abstract humoral imbalances could lead to treatments that not only failed to alleviate symptoms, but actively worsened a patient's condition. Moreover, being labeled as having a humoral imbalance, particularly one leading to madness, carried a heavy social stigma. This could result in isolation, imprisonment, or a complete loss of status within the community, deepening the suffering of individuals already battling profound psychological distress. The theoretical explanation of their malady became a justification for their often dehumanizing treatment. As we peel back the layers of history, the unsettling legacy of this theory comes into sharp focus. It was a framework that once defined sanity and madness across an entire continent, dictating the very experience of illness and recovery for generations. It represents a monumental chapter in the history of medicine, a testament to humanity's relentless quest to understand itself, even when that understanding was deeply flawed. Yet, despite its obvious scientific flaws, Could this ancient framework, with its emphasis on internal balance and equilibrium, offer any surprising echoes, however distorted or metaphorical, of modern holistic approaches to well-being? While contemporary medicine rejects the specific humors and their simplistic causation of disease, the underlying concept of striving for internal harmony, of considering the whole person rather than just isolated symptoms, resonates with some modern philosophies of health and wellness. Is it possible that even in its mistaken grandeur, the humoral theory unwittingly touched upon a deeper, more enduring human intuition about the interconnectedness of mind and body? Join us again as we continue to delve into the past, searching for the echoes of humanity's great history. What more forgotten truths or terrifying misconceptions lie hidden within the annals of time, waiting to be rediscovered?